Welcome to Passive Aggressive Income. This program may contain strong language. The content may not be suitable for audiences under the age of 17. We understand many of our listeners may not agree with all of our personal viewpoints. We in no way, shape, or form mean to be offensive to anyone. Our show notes will provide all of our source material included for each episode. Now let's get passive aggressive.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Passive Aggressive Income. We're your hosts, Lexi and Mims. Mims is going to take away this one and finish up on our real estate topics.
Yeah, I'm excited about this because I've been doing this a lot lately. So let's jump into it. In this episode, we will be covering the best tips on leasing. Sifting through piles of applications or replying to hundreds of messages is a very daunting task. I do it almost every day now, but I have some tips that will help you through this important property management step. Even if you're not like a whole property management company and it's just you, there's a lot of takeaways in this. So let's get to it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to learn from you because I really haven't had to do a whole lot of like this sifting through applications because it's pretty much with me doing midterm rentals. I will get someone reaching out for specific days, and if I feel like it's a good fit, then we'll go with them. But yeah,
Right.
so I'm excited to learn from you and your expertise.
Thank you. Okay, so these days, everyone is looking for an affordable place to rent. It is very hard to come by a safe place that isn't thousands of dollars, that isn't a 4 foot walk up. So, this is your time to shine. Leasing is when you sell the best qualities of the property or unit you have available. You will do this by being truthful, obviously, but by also focusing on the best selling information. For example, you are trying to fill one of the units at a 22 apartment complex. Here are just some tips and things that you should include, things that you should highlight, and also things that you should disclose as well. If there are anything or any utilities included, this is a big seller, especially when people are paying for obviously the rent and maybe they're paying for storage. They're paying for their cars, they're paying for insurances, they're paying for food, everything. So one less thing for them to pay is always going to be a benefit. Obviously, this isn't going to be the case for a lot of units or properties. So if you have this, make sure that it is highlighted in your description or your listing.
Mhm. Yeah, and for example, my properties are all on one water meter, so I have to pay for water. So that is something
Yes.
that is included automatically in rent. So if you're in a situation like that, then it is a really big seller when people look at rent and they're like, that is my cost. I don't have to add on all of these other utilities.
Exactly. If there's a shared basement or if there's individual storage, if there is off-street parking or if there is a garage or a carport, these are really big sellers because not nobody wants to park in the street. So off-street parking, car or carport, and garage are things that people are typically looking for.
Mhm.
The location, is this close to downtown or is it in the country? What is in the walking distance from this property? What makes this property convenient and desirable? So let's say this is 5 minutes away from downtown. You want to list that because there are going to be people that love that and there are going to be people that hate that. So make sure that you are completely outlining where this property or this unit is so that people aren't like, well, I don't want to live in the country or I don't want to live in the heart of the city. So make sure that you are being as descriptive as you can be.
Mhm.
Are there any amenities offered, like a built-in AC unit or pool or fitness facility? Anything else that you can think of, make sure that you add that so it's more. There's hundreds of people posting available units, and you're competing to find the best tenant to take this unit. So make sure that you are just giving every detail about this and especially all of the amenities as well because it's going to make you stand out.
Mhm.
Is the unit on the first floor or the second floor? This is important. You may not think about this, but for people that have, maybe two kids, they don't want to be going up and down the stairs with a toddler holding onto their toddler's hand and then a baby in the other.
Right.
So make sure that you are clearly saying this is an upper, this is a lower.
Hmm.
Um, is the building main entrance secure or is it unlocked? This you should be putting in the description as well, because if this is a huge apartment building, that may deter other people and that may not be a problem for others. But you don't want them to show up to the showing and they're like, "Why isn't the door locked?" And then boom, you already lost them at the
Right.
the first 5 seconds.
Yeah, you don't want to waste anyone's time.
Right.
And to go back to your previous point about is the unit on the first or second floor, this is also a big accessibility thing. So you want to make sure that even if you are on the first floor, for example, both of my properties, the main floor requires at least like 5 steps to get up into the first floor. So if someone's only looking for a first floor property, disclose if you still need to do stairs to get into that unit.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so some things that are important to disclose right off the bat, even if it's not the most comfortable things, is the unit pet friendly? Does the property accept housing? Is it close to less desirable things like perhaps a homeless shelter? It is best to have this all in the listing so that people do not waste your time and your time as well. And there's no like shocks when they go and see the unit.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Okay, here are some habits that I practice during the leasing process. As you can imagine, everyone and their mothers will want to schedule a showing, and that is just simply not possible. So, what I put right in the ad is that we will not show the unit unless there are an approved applicant.
Mm.
So, I have people who I believe would be the best candidate apply before even coming to the unit for a showing. This is a two-part reason. One is because I want to make sure that the person is eligible to even rent before we go down the rabbit hole of driving out to the unit just to be turned down. Once they apply, if you're doing it, vice versa.
Right.
And two is the fact that I have a clear log of people that will or have seen the unit in case something bad happens. And I'm going to knock on wood
Mm.
for that because
That's really smart.
right, you don't know these people
Yeah.
and you want to be as safe as possible. And if I have like an application from this person, full name, where they're living, and all I have to do is call, the police or
Mhm.
whoever, and I say, hey, I know who this person
Yeah.
is. Here's all their information.
Right. We ran a background check and everything.
Right.
Mhm.
You can provide people with paper applications and do it old school, or have them go to your property management website if you have one. If you don't, there is a website called Landlord Station. The applicant can submit their application through this website for free. But when it comes to screening their background, evictions, and credit, that is a fee of its own. So, what I typically do, because I use Landlord Station, is I have them apply and they don't have to do the fee at first. I do the showing, and then if I think they're great and they're also very interested, then I send them the background check so that they aren't paying for the fee and then they get there and they're like, yeah, I'm not really interested in this, but I already paid $40.
Right. Hmm. Yeah, fair point.
Then there is Zillow. If you have your property or unit listed on Zillow, they can apply right then and there. There is a fee, which I believe is $30 now, but I am not 100% sure on that. Before they apply and they're just in the inquiring stages of it, I ask a few questions to see if they're a good fit, even before I take the time to show them or
Hmm.
send them the application link. Here are some things that I like to ask. Are there any pets? And I ask this right away because a lot of the properties that I manage are not pet friendly. So I want to get that out of the way right then and there. How many people, including children, there are? If this is a one bedroom and they say there's 5 people, I'm going to right, I'm going to know right off the bat that this isn't going to work
No.
because you can't fit 5 people in a 1 bedroom. Is your credit score 600 or above? So we have a requirement that you have to have a 600 or above credit score. If they say, I have really bad credit, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, this isn't going to be a good fit. So nobody's time is being wasted.
Yeah.
And that includes evictions or if there's any felonies on their records. I don't do any evictions. So if they say, yeah, I've had an eviction 5 years ago, that's going to be a no-go, and I'm going to let
Mhm.
them know right away. And I do have it in the description, but a lot of people try to bypass that. So that's
Yeah.
why I make the additional ask before.
Mhm. Right. Then you have like verbal confirmation, or if it's over email, then you have the receipts for it. You're not
Yeah,
just going off of like, oh, I'm sure they read it. It's fine.
right, right. I also ask if they have a current job and how long that they've been there, because I don't want to see, oh, I work at Starbucks and I've only been there a month. Nothing wrong with working at Starbucks. That's perfectly fine. But I don't want them to be there just for a month. I want to see that they've actually been at their employer for a year, 2 years,
Mhm.
5 years, so that I can see that there is consistency.
Yeah. You know that they're going to be able to pay rent and, do that consistently and not just be like, oh, I lost my job that I've just started at, or I decided I hate it and I quit. And now I'm
Right,
just like, sorry, can't pay.
right, exactly. And then when are you looking to move in? Even though you have the available time or the available move-in date in the description, a lot of people are like, I'm looking to move in August, and you're talking that this unit is available now. Like, so I like to make sure that I have everything ironed out before we move on
Mhm.
to the next steps here.
Yeah, that's a really important. One thing that I've had to do with managing my midterm rentals. So typically I'm renting out to people who are looking pretty last minute for housing for a couple
Mm,
months stay at a time. And so I
mhm.
really have to be like prompt about this is when the lease ends. And if I have vacancy over like a month and a half, 2 months, like that's not going to work for me because typically contracts that I have people coming and staying in these units may only last a couple months. So make sure that like the timing is correct. And
Yes.
then also with what you're talking about, not wasting anyone's time with showings. I feel like this is kind of a thing that I've had to deal with. Most people, they'll see my listing, and because it's such a short-term stay, they're only staying for like 1 to 3 months, maybe 4 months. They don't really need to see the unit. They can see our reviews, they can see all the pictures, they can ask questions. But if they're like, yeah, I want to see this unit, I personally make sure that they are serious about it because, like, maybe I have tenants in the unit. And so I want to say, if you are ready to book upon like seeing this unit, you just want one final check, but otherwise you're good to go, then I'll show the unit. But otherwise, it's kind of a waste of time for me if you are looking at like, if you're just doing like lines lining up showing after showing after showing because those people don't ever book and it's like well what's the point if you're not ready so if you are doing
Yeah.
something more of like a midterm rental where you have shorter leases then maybe you don't have like the whole process of like a showing is normal for you but be a little bit stricter about who you decide to show the unit to because when you're only getting like 3 months of rent taking up a whole afternoon where you have to rearrange your schedule to show this person a unit who is really not that interested is a waste of time on everyone's side.
Very good points. Yeah, and I think what you and I are trying to hammer in is that we want the people that are the most serious, the
Mm-hmm.
most qualified, and the people that are actionable. So they
Yes.
can move right now. They are looking to move when you have this unit available for. They are, if they like it right away, they are eligible to snap it like that because believe it or not, I have people like every day messaging me. There is a shortage of good units out there
Yeah.
to rent. So they snap it up.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure that these people are not wasting their own time and wasting your time is basically the meat and potatoes of this episode.
Yeah, exactly.
So, one more thing that I like to ask is what are you looking in your new home? I sent a list of questions, and a lot of people are like, don't even answer. And that's
Mm-hmm.
perfectly fine. because then I move on to people that are actually interested and
Yeah.
are going to respond to me. But this question is super important because I have learned the hard way after I did a showing for a really great applicant that they got to the property and said, well, I wanted a garage. And even though it wasn't listed in the description, they chose to bring that up at the showing.
Mhm.
So when I'm messaging people, I say, what do you need? And that we can refer back to your previous episode, Lexi, of
Mhm.
things that are important to you, what you're looking for. And I just straight off the bat want to ask people that, because if I don't have a garage for you, then what are we doing?
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's such a good point. And yeah, having these list of questions that you can send to a potential renter is really important because, like Mim said, you want to see who's even going to respond. And then if they do take the time to answer your questions,
Mm,
then is this compatible? And I've
yeah.
definitely had to learn that with short-term rentals and midterm rentals too. And that's also a similar question that I'll ask. I'll usually be like, what do you like about the property? But
Mm,
I might switch it to what are you looking for in a new home because I think that like is because they don't really necessarily know all the things that your unit is going to offer. You can have like
right.
a very in-depth description, but you know your property best,
Yeah.
so you can figure out what they're looking for and then use those points to be a salesperson to be like, oh yeah, this is really compatible with what you're looking for,
Right.
and have that back and forth.
Right. And I love that question because as a property management company, I have multiple listings. So let's say they're like, oh, I'm actually looking for Kakana instead of Appleton. I'm like,
Mhm.
great, I have Kakana right here. So I'll
Right.
send them like another listing and see if I can find something that fits their needs.
Yeah, cross promote your own listings. That's a
Yes.
really hot tip.
All right, let's move on to showings. Like I mentioned, I only do showings for approved applicants, which means I am only showing the unit to the cream of the crop. I like to stack my showings for multiple reasons. It creates a sense of urgency. Like other people want this unit, and I have to make a decision fast. And of
Mhm.
course, to save me several back and forth trips to show the unit.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that stand firm on not doing showings, and I can see their side on that. If they have 2,000 units or more, and they're all over the place, it is nearly impossible to keep up with showings. But if you have the manpower and you have the time, I stand on providing showings. That way, people can show up to the unit on move-in day and they're not going to be like, this isn't what I signed up for. And
Mhm.
everything is like, no, I've shown you this and you've seen it with your own eyeballs and your own ear holes. You've used all your senses here and
Yeah.
you signed a lease based off of that. So I
Mhm.
know that this isn't something that's a surprise for you.
Right. Yeah, it's really like a small investment of your time to take to make sure that your tenant is going to be happy when they move in, because this is the start of a business relationship between the two of you.
Yes.
So you want to make sure that they've walked around the neighborhood, that they're aware of any like weird smells in the
Mm,
building, or that,
yeah.
things that you can't just gauge from when you're looking at a listing online, that there's
Yes.
no surprises and everything goes smoothly on move-in day.
Absolutely. And as a person that is showing, I have another tip for you as well. Don't show up in like sweatpants or like a baggy whatever, and like you haven't showered in 4 days. And make sure that it's this is like the first time they're meeting you, right?
Mhm.
So you want to put your best foot forward. You're selling them a product, so
Yeah.
make sure that you are also selling yourself too, because if you show up and you're like, hey, um um you have 5 minutes to walk around and let me know if you have any questions, instead of like, hey, this is a beautiful complex and
Mhm.
this is a great unit for you and your kids, I see. And yeah, look at the fridge. It's so big. And if you're
Right.
not there and you're not like trying to sell it and you look like $1 million too, like
Mhm.
that's only going to get you a little bit further ahead of the competition.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
Approving the best applicant. When you find the best applicant after meeting them in person, review their background check and application again and confirm their desired move in date. And then, if everything lines up, send them the lease as soon as possible.
Yes.
Once I get their confirmation, I want to lock that person in right away. Because, like I said, good tenants are really rare. They are,
Hmm.
if everything is aligning, I want to snatch them up as soon as possible.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then if you get a few great applicants that went to the same showing and you want to keep them, what I have done in the past is offer them another unit and try to snag them for another comparable unit. But remember to disclose everything about the other option and the differences so that they
Hmm.
cannot come back to you and say you baited and switched them. So
Great.
make sure that you are like, hey, I have another unit. I think you're a really great applicant. I really want to retain you. And I think that I have another option that you would like. Let's go look at that one and make sure that
Hmm.
you are comfortable switching to this unit. And let's see if we can find you a place because this one is also getting a lot of attention, just in case, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. If you're in like something like an apartment complex where you can literally go walk over to the other unit and check it out,
Yes.
then they can again see it for their own eyes and make a decision. And yeah,
Yes.
like you said earlier, is making sure that you send that lease out as soon as possible when there's a good applicant, but not trying to lose out on other applicants either. And I've
Right.
definitely been like in my house at 10 p.m., like writing up a lease because someone's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like,
Yes.
okay, let's get
Me
it
too.
signed immediately.
Me too. I will drop what I'm not gonna say I'm gonna drop, but let's say I'm like watching a show
Oh yeah.
or I'm just hanging around the house and somebody's like, yes, let's move forward with the lease. I'm like, I'm on it. I'm doing it
Yep.
right now.
Immediately.
Yeah, exactly. Because that is really important. Getting on top of filling units and lowering your vacancy is a huge part of managing properties.
Hmm. Yeah, and as you are showing your unit to multiple potential renters, they are also looking at lots of other potential
Yes,
options for housing too. So you may not be their only option. So if you're fast about
exactly.
it, then you can get ahead of the competition.
Exactly. Yes. So I'm going to wrap up this episode with some highlights. When creating your listing for your property or unit, make sure to be as descriptive as possible, including the best qualities about the unit, and also make sure to disclose things that are important, as transparency from the start is super important. Be on top of replying to people who inquire, as you won't want to miss a diamond in the rough. I know that responding to hundreds of people, especially if you have it posted on Facebook Marketplace, which I highly suggest, do not sleep on Facebook Marketplace. I know it's not as, professional, if you will, but people love to. I've signed the most leases from Facebook Marketplace,
Wow.
and you can find really great people from there because people live on Facebook. I swear.
Yeah.
Like if if people have an app, they have Facebook.
Hmm.
So be on top of replying to them because you don't want to miss out on that great person. And what I do is if somebody hasn't replied to my first pre-screening questions, I just kind of like remove that chat. So I get like my chats are smaller than like 1,000 in
Yeah.
my inbox.
Less
So
overwhelming.
yeah, exactly. So make sure you clean it up. If somebody hasn't replied to you in like a week, they're probably not going to reply to you. So just clean
Hmm.
it up so you're not totally overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And make sure to vet the inquirers with some pre-screening questions before sending them an application, especially if there's a cost. You don't want to send them over and then um, they're like, I've only worked at my Domino's job for a month and I have no rental history, and it's just really bad from the start, and you
Yeah.
didn't ask important questions. That's another waste of time for both of you.
Hmm. And waste of money if they have to pay like
Yeah.
$20 for an application fee that's not even going to work for them.
Yes. If you are doing showings, I highly suggest the inquirers to apply before scheduling a showing. This is a point of safety, and it's also again, goes back to seeing if they're eligible or not. Stack your showings. It is time effective and it creates a sense of urgency. And lastly, send the lease agreement out right away so that you can lock in that amazing applicant. And that is my episode on leasing tips.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mims, for all of the information. I feel like this is really good to just have a compiled list of like what to expect if you are an investor and you're showing your properties, because doing all of this can be really time consuming, but if you follow these tips, then you can make it a lot less overwhelming on your end. And I
Right.
can definitely see, I don't know if you've talked about it on the podcast or not, that you are now working for a new like rental agency as a property manager, but I can see why they hired you because you are so like professional and you know what you're doing. And
Oh,
like I can see in you it is a good investment for them.
thank you. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh my gosh, my heart. Well, I hope that everybody had good takeaways from this episode, and let me know or let us know if you use any of my tips the next time that you did some leasing. I would love to hear what worked for you. And make sure to stay tuned for our next episode because we're going a little bit back to our original roots. We are going to be diving into us as people, and it's going to be really fun. So make sure you tune into that one.
Yeah, well, we're coming up on a year, so we're gonna tell a little bit more about our stories and how we got to this point and what's changed since we did a last About Us episode a year
Yes.
ago. So make sure to tune back in on Monday and we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Passive Aggressive Income was written, recorded, edited, and produced by co-hosts and creators Mims and Lexi. We truly want to thank our listeners, collaborators, friends, and family that continuously support us for all the love we receive. If you enjoy our show, please give us a glowing rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see what we are up to. For any inquiries, please email passiveaggressiveincome2023@gmail.com. Episodes of Passive Aggressive Income are available wherever you listen to podcasts, so make sure to subscribe and like us on your favorite streaming platform.